Continuing in our Fear is Less Than Love series, I'm going to put the artwork up straight up this week so you can know what we're talking about, where we're going, what is fear and what is love. Take a look at this art. Again, this is from an artist named Scott Erickson. He wrote an ebook called Move Over Fear. You can purchase it at his website, Scott Erickson, and have this little ebook for yourself and all this artwork for yourself for more deeper conversations. But now I need you to listen and look at this art for just a bit longer. Now, if you've gathered with your group, your friends, your roommates, your family, you can pause right now and talk about this art. What is it already teaching you? Go ahead. The spirit of fear wants us to claim that we know it all, so we're protected from disappointment. But love asks us to listen. And listening exposes you to vulnerability. Listening exposes you to vulnerability because when you truly listen, you open yourself up to be moved, challenged, and even changed by what you hear. It requires setting aside your defenses and suspending judgment long enough to let another person's words, emotions, and perspective sink in. That means you risk being confronted with truths that unsettle you, pains that burden you, or needs you feel responsible to respond to. Listening also requires humility. You can't control or predict what someone will say, and you may hear something that touches your own wounds and reveals your limitations. This is the vulnerability. Listening isn't passive. It requires bravery because you're going to feel heartbreak. There's a story about a man named Nicodemus. You can find this in the book of John, chapter 3. He was a very learned man. He was actually a Pharisee. And he came to visit Jesus at night for one of many reasons. Let's read that account. Verses 1 and 2. There was a man named Nicodemus, a Jewish religious leader who was a Pharisee. After dark one evening, he came to speak with Jesus. "Rabbi," he said, "we all know that God has sent you to teach us. Your miraculous signs are evidence that God is with you." And then the story goes on. But what is more amazing about this story? That learned Nicodemus would ask questions of this mysterious Jesus, or that Jesus listened to Nicodemus so Nicodemus could keep asking his questions. And we read further in the story down to verse 9 that Nicodemus felt so safe asking his questions, he was even able to ask what may be considered a stupid question. Verse 9, "How are these things possible?" Nicodemus asked. So a conversation question to have with your group. I hope you're meeting with them. What stands out for you more in this Nicodemus story? That he dared to ask questions of Jesus, who was probably less than him, he maybe thought of that, or that Jesus actually listened? Talk about that. I have another conversation question. Same Nicodemus story, but I want to ask this question also. What do you think made Nicodemus feel safe enough to ask his stupid question? What allowed that to happen? Talk about that. Vulnerable listening is Christ-like because it says, your story matters enough for me to stay open with my heart, even if it costs me something. Fear wants you to put a finger in your ear. Your fear tells me that I am not valuable to you. A cultural divide that exists right now has at its core is we've stopped listening to each other. Each side feels devalued, so they're armoring up. So let's talk about those people that maybe you don't want to listen to. Maybe there are people you don't respect. Maybe they have different political positions. Maybe you love them, but you're also tired of them at the same time. You know, those people. We say often we're to love our enemies. This is a lesson from Jesus. You say, I even pray for my enemies. But do you listen to your enemies? You hear where I'm going here? Ephesians 4:15 says, instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of his body, the church. Too many believe that the way we should love our enemies is by condemning their sin, even if that requires harshness. This equals speaking the truth in love. What about listening? Too many believe that calling out evil is an act of love. Let me just say this. Yes, this is an act of love. If I'm in a relationship with you, I'm going to call out evil in your life. It is my responsibility on your life team. It's my responsibility because I love you to call out evil in your life. But if I don't know who you are, we're not in relationship, I don't think I'm speaking the truth in love there. You see the difference? Love is more kindness and patience. This is 1 Corinthians 13:4. You can listen and find yourself becoming more patient and kind. Love is also not irritable and does not keep a record of wrongs. That's 1 Corinthians 13:5. We are called to do that in love. That means there's more kindness and patience practice by keeping no record of wrong and not becoming irritable. So how do we love our enemies? By being patient, kind, and not irritated with them. And often that comes in just listening. Now, listening doesn't mean you're going to change your convictions. We're going to get to that. But listening provides dignity to somebody, less armoring up. It is easier to put a finger in your ear or to stay in your echo chambers. This is when the spirit of fear is leading. This is when you justify your fear. If you're feeling a little conviction about this, good. You have to be in a position of trust to be able to listen to people. Not trust in the people you are listening to. That varies on who you're listening to. But trusting who God is. And trusting that God is good. Do you trust that you are loved by God? Do you trust that God is good? Then you can love someone by listening to them, because it's not going to shake your identity in who God is and how God sees you and how you see yourself in God's heart. You're listening, showing kindness and patience and lack of irritability and giving respect. It is love. It is vulnerable, but it is love. I have some stats here from Future of Faith research. I love reading research on teens. Listen to these large numbers. 8 in 10 U.S. teenagers say listening was important in the moments that shaped their faith the most. 65% of adults said so also. 67% of U.S. teenagers say their faith grows when someone listens to them talk about their beliefs without judgment. The same goes for 66% of adults. 70% of teenagers say they trust someone more when they listen and follow up rather than just sharing their own thoughts. 71% of U.S. teenagers say being listened to has deepened their own faith. 65% of adults say that also. 65% of U.S. teenagers say that asking reflective questions is a powerful way to help them connect faith to their daily life. 76% of adults say this. And these are some quotes from some of the adults that were interviewed for the survey. If you're having a really serious conversation about things and you don't feel like you're being listened to, it's like a crushing moment. It kind of makes you question the whole relationship. It makes me want to, it makes, if you're having a really serious conversation about things and you don't feel like you're being listened to, it's like a crushing moment. It kind of makes you question the whole relationship. It makes me feel valued when somebody takes the time to really make eye contact, listen and nod and engage. When I feel like they're engaged, that builds trust. People listen to those who listen to them. I would take their advice to heart more because I know that they're coming from my best interest, or like they're closer to my perspective because they know where I'm coming from. And another quote from an adult: if someone is a bad listener, it makes me more avoidant and become smaller. It makes me just be like a wallflower and not try to start anything with anybody and trust people less. So remember how I talked about if you trust God and you trust that God is good, you're more freer to listen even to your enemies or to those people, because it doesn't change who you are in God. So have this conversation with your people. How does believing that God is good make it safer to hear hard truths or even lies from people? This is going to be a good conversation. Really, really dig in and have it. I'll be back. I hope you had that rich conversation, because how you can love and lead in love by listening comes in that conversation. I have a Max Lucado quote I love to quote often. I'm going to quote it here again. Oversized and rude, fear is unwilling to share the heart with happiness. Happiness complies and leaves. Do you ever see the two together? Can one be happy and afraid at the same time? Clear thinking and afraid? Confident and afraid? Merciful and afraid? No. Fear is the big bully in the school hallway, brash, loud, and unproductive. For all the noise fear makes and room it takes, fear does little good. Fear never wrote a symphony or poem, negotiated a peace treaty, or cured a disease. Fear never pulled a family out of poverty or a country out of bigotry. Fear never saved a marriage or a business. Courage did that. Faith did that. Sometimes the great orchestra is just you listening. One of the parents in our church, the parent of a young adult, said, I always told him, I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm going to listen to you. You saw those stats. That's powerful. This is also a good verse to practice. It's James 1:19. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. There's so much wisdom when you can lead your life with love with that. And I want to repeat this one more time because this is the core of it. You have to be in a position of trust with God to be able to listen to people. What if Jesus didn't listen to Nicodemus, but instead said to him, oh, you came to me, now let me tell you everything I've been telling all the people? No. It was in the listening, because Jesus knew who he was. And he knew what he's here to do. It was in that listening that Nicodemus was able to ask his question and get to the true point of how can this be, and feel safe enough to ask that question. And I believe it changed his life. May we try to emulate that. Fear is less than love. May we listen more and realize the gift of love that is to people. I hope to see you again.